Well, we have two big storms that are impacting the United States over the next week. The first one right now moving into the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic. The next just moving along the West Coast. It could bring blizzard conditions, severe weather, heavy rain, strong wind, even coastal flooding. So this is a huge storm that's really going to impact us. So we're going to get into both of these. Hi everyone, I'm Travis Roberts. I'm a former TV chief meteorologist. Thank you so much for watching. If it's not the date above, make sure you hit subscribe. I try to keep these videos updated, so make sure you get those notifications. And I've never said this before. If you're watching the video and you like it, hit the like button. Feels weird saying that. Someone said that in the comments. They said smash the like button. I've never said that. Give it a thumbs up. The first thing that we're talking about are these two storms. This one's going to move into the Northeast. It's going to cause the rain and the snow that we're going to break down. We're going to really detail that. And then this system across the west is going to bring a tremendous amount of snow. You know, I was reading some interesting things with this storm. It looks like it's going to bring some winds across the Sierra, could gust 80 to 100 miles per hour on some of the ridges, 2 to 4 foot waves on Lake Tahoe. This is an intense storm that is going to move into parts of the plains heading into next week, and then it's going to have explosive growth once it moves out into the plains. And then we're going to be dealing with just a tremendous amount of wind. We're going to have a huge 1031 high pressure here off to the northeast, combined with a 980 millibarish low moving toward the Great Lakes, and that pressure gradient is going to be so strong here across the East Coast. We could see coastal flooding heading into next week. So a very busy week. This is going to be our low pressure moving toward the Mid-Atlantic heading into Saturday. It's going to bring ice along the southern Appalachians. So we're talking about western North Carolina up into southwest Virginia, parts of southern West Virginia, and then eventually up along the I-81 corridor. DC, I think we're too warm for any type of ice. Richmond, too warm, and obviously anywhere south and east of that. So the Carolinas, we're wet. And that rain, though, could be on the heavy side. It's going to be a wet go on Saturday. Now, the winter weather continues to the north, right along the Ohio River. I think that's the battleground. Just north of that, we will likely see some snow. It doesn't look like a tremendous amount of snow. The area of heaviest snow will likely be somewhere in here as our storm moves off to the north and east. And we're talking about several inches of snow, especially if that banding can set up. That difference between that warm and cold air, especially once we develop that ocean front here, that warm air moving in off the relatively warm water that's in the upper 40s and 50s. That banding could cause some decent snow amounts into parts of Massachusetts, Connecticut, even into parts of southern New York, and then eventually New Hampshire and Maine as this system deepens and moves off the coast. Now let's zoom in and go a little bit slower. This system, as it moves into the southeast and it moves into the mid-Atlantic, will start to bring some wintry precipitation into the higher elevations and into western parts of North Carolina, north of Statesville, up towards Mount Airy, down toward Boone. Even Asheville could start as a little bit of ice, and then that ice extends. It's freezing rain where it's too warm to see really snowflakes make it all the way to the ground, but right at the surface we have that cold air that's below freezing, and when that super cool rain hits the surface, it freezes on contact because we will be below freezing in these areas, but there is enough warm air aloft that's moving in from the south and west. It will not allow for snow to make it all the way to the ground. We'll have a warm layer of air that will melt the snow, and then we'll see that freezing once it touches the surface. Winter storm warnings up for ice from the western mountains of North Carolina all the way up into Virginia. So the I-81 corridor, I think, is the spot. You wanted to call a dividing line of where the ice starts and begins. Say go from Beckley down to Bluefield, down to Wytheville, and then ride the Tennessee-North Carolina line. East of that is likely where we see the ice. On the east side of this system, right here along the Piedmont. So I think Richmond, we're all rain. DC, we stay rain. But some of that icing could be heavy into parts of the Shenandoah Valley, north into parts of western Maryland, and then eventually that snow starts to take over as the main concern once we move into Pennsylvania. The snow will be heavy at times across Pennsylvania. The sweet spot looks to be Harrisburg, I-81 north into parts of New York. Now there will be some mixing, it looks like, just to the southeast of Harrisburg, and that will cut into any snow totals, but we're still looking at a decent amount of snow for places like northern New Jersey, Sussex County, 6 to 10 inches, certainly possible here. Warren and Morris counties, maybe a little bit less, 4 to 8 inches. And then north of that into the Hudson Valley, especially once you get up toward Albany, I think we see some pretty good snows here. Glens Falls, the Mohawk Valley, the Catskills, all seeing snow. Mid-Hudson Valley, and then east into southern Vermont, southern New Hampshire, western Massachusetts, Connecticut. You bet we're going to see the snow here. You know, Connecticut is really going to be the dividing line. You know, if you live in, say, northern Middlesex, northern Fairfield, northern New Haven counties, you're probably going to see that heavy snow. Just south of that, though, we're going to be influenced by the warmish waters of the northern Atlantic right now, and also the Long Island Sound, which water temperatures are in the upper 40s and lower 50s. But wherever we see that coastal front form, because you're going to get that relatively warmer air colliding with that colder air, we could get some banding of snow, and that could be on the heavy side. And that's, again, one of the reasons I think we see that heavy snow possibly here into western Mass, even toward Boston, certainly looking like all snow at this point. Too warm for snow, though, here along the coast. Providence, we start probably as snow, potentially mixing with sleet, maybe some freezing rain, and then back to snow on the back end of it. New York, we start as snow, I think, and then we go over to rain, and then maybe even back to snow. So New York is really right on that dividing line. New Jersey, mostly rain, but again, the northern parts and even the northwestern parts will likely stay all snow. But as we move into Sunday afternoon, the heaviest snow will be here across Maine, New Hampshire, and then eventually everything kicks out to sea. Now, on the backside of the system, there could be a few light snow showers across the mountains of West Virginia, the eastern hills of Ohio, down into the western mountains of North Carolina. Could even see some light snow showers even into southwest Virginia. Certainly not a lot of snow as our storm pulls away. Now, as far as ice accumulation goes, winter storm warnings are out for these areas, so head to weather.gov. That's where you need to get all of your updates and warnings from. I don't really dive into the warnings exactly because they do change so often, so make sure you monitor weather.gov for those official emergency alerts. Here's the afternoon snow totals from the European. A good 6 to 12 inches of snow, at least in the heaviest areas, with outer areas receiving a little bit less, with several inches. Anything over blue here is more than 2 inches of snow. Anything over purple is more than 6 showing up on the model. Now here's the National Weather Service forecast. A little bit different, but still adding up to those heavier amounts here into northeast Pennsylvania, northern New Jersey, southern New York. Here's Connecticut into Massachusetts, and then eventually New Hampshire into southern Maine. Now let's talk about storm number 2. This will impact many of you as we head into next week. Some of you it's impacting as early as Saturday. Big snow is going here in the Olympic Mountains and the Cascades. Elevations over 2,000 feet. We'll likely see better than 10, 12 inches, maybe even more. So Stevens Pass, Snoqualmie Pass, we're going to see some problems here travel-wise. Heavy rain and wind along the coast. And as this system digs into Northern California and parts of Nevada, we are going to see that snow and rain pick up. Wind is going to be a huge issue here. Gusts of 50. You get on top of the mountains, 80 to 100 miles per hour is what the National Weather Service is saying. Potentially 2 to 4 foot waves on Lake Tahoe. So this is an intense winter storm. So I-80, Donner Pass, Highway 50 across Echo Summit, Carson Pass on Highway 80. Huge problems. And then as we move into Saturday afternoon and into Sunday, those snow elevations will drop. We're talking about down to 1,500 feet by Sunday morning. So we'll see snow levels all the way down to the valley floors. And, backing things up where we see the heavy snow, snowfall rates could approach 2 inches an hour. So this could really cause some issues if you're traveling. Keep that in mind. And then that system drops into the Four Corner states, brings snow also into pretty much all of the Intermountain West as we head toward late Sunday night and then into Monday. And then things get interesting next week. We see rapid cyclone genesis as this system moves into the plain states. That's typically what happens when they move to the lee side of the Rockies. That's where they start to deepen and spin up, and that's what's going to happen as we head into next week. The wind field on this storm is going to be enormous, and you're going to feel it pretty much everywhere. Strong high pressure here off the northeast coast. The 1032 millibar high combined with a deepening low that's probably going to drop into the 980 millibar range, maybe even 970s as it moves towards the Great Lakes. That pressure gradient is going to cause strong southerly winds on this side of the system, strong east-northeast winds here, and then behind it, strong northwest winds. On the north and west side of this storm, we'll likely see heavy snow, maybe even blizzard conditions. I think it's too early to start throwing those terms out and saying this is exactly where we're going to have a blizzard because we don't know exactly the track of it. But the point is, this looks like a very strong storm heading into next week. On the east side of it, enough cold air in place that we see a bit of a mix of rain, sleet, and snow for the east coast, and then everything transitions over to rain as we see that strong southerly flow. Now, with this strong onshore flow here into the east, I think the problem will be coastal flooding. That is something that's going to have to be monitored next week. Not just the snow and rain, but the wind is going to cause major issues and maybe even damaging winds. So it is something that you want to watch next week. It's too early for any warnings or anything like that. But heading into Tuesday and Wednesday, this could cause a big problem. So there's my analysis. Hit the like button. Thanks for watching, and I hope this helps, and I hope you have a great day and you come back and see me.